Welcome everybody. We will try to restart from where we left. So now we will talk about pre-Roman Italy and Rome. As we can see, we're still in the Mediterranean Sea era, and we will be looking at the Italy peninsula, and in particular for the Etruscans in the center of Italy. So pre-Roman Italy was home to diverse people like the Etruscans, the Latins, and the Greek colonists. These groups had very distinct cultures and influenced early Rome before its rise. As we can see here, these are some of the most important cities of this period. We are talking about, I will be using the Italian pronunciation, which is the original one, and I think it's the most authentic one. So we're talking about Veio, Tarquinia, Cumne, and Capua. Tarquinia and Veio were very wealthy Etruscan cities, with Veio known for its gladiator schools, the gladiator, and resistance during the Second Punic War. We didn't talk about the Punic War. I'll let you guys know a good video to look at for this particular period. And Capua, it's an important Italic Samnite city that played a key role during the Romanization of Campania in the south of Italy, while Cumne, the first Greek colony on the Italian mainland, served as a gateway for the Greek language, architecture, and religion to Italy. So we can see here, I did a scheme to understand how to analyze pre-Roman Italy, and we will be focusing on these first two points, so prehistoric foundations and Etruscan civilizations, because it's, I think, the most significant part. Okay, as we can see, this is a map of Italy, a geographic map of Italy, and we can start talking about the Paleolithic period. So in Italy, it was spanning approx 2.6 million years ago to 10,000 BC, and it represents the earliest phase of human history in the region. During this time, early humans, including Neanderthals and later Homo sapiens, inhabited various environments, using tools made of stone and bone and wood for hunting and gathering. Right? This is the Homo sapiens that mixed with the Neanderthals in the Italy peninsula. We can see a resemblance with my aesthetic, right? Significant archaeological sites, such as the ones in the caves of the Apuan Alps in the north and in the Balzi Rossi, revealed the evidence of these early societies, including cave arts, as we can see in the slide, and burial practices. The period is characterized by nomadic life and with humans adapting to changing climate and landscape of Italy. I don't know, guys, if you know, but Italy, it has such a diverse environments. You can see in the north there are the Alps, and it's more about like a climate with similar to Germany, Austria, and south of France. But if you look in the south, like in Sicily or in Campania, Calabria, Puglia, which were the first places that Greeks went to, it's almost like the north part of Africa, so that's very diverse. So we can talk about Matera. The architectural horizon in Italy, as in everywhere else, refers to development of significant architectural styles and structures from the Neolithic period onwards, culminating in the Roman architecture, which is considered the apex. This evolution showcases a transition from simple dwellings to complex human planning, and Matera is, I think, a midway to them. And if you're wondering, yes, it's still lived today. People live inside, and in these cities, we can see simple dwellings beginning to become urban cities that included temples, amphitheaters, aqueducts. The key innovations were like the arch, the vault, the concrete constructions. All of these allowed for monumental structures that influenced architecture through history. So in this map we can see all the different civilization, different ethnic groups that were in Italy in this period. We will only be talking about the Etrusci. I will be using the Italian pronunciation here. They were living here in the center of Italy. It's the first one in the non-Indo-European group. There's written Etrusci, which is the English, but we will be using the Italian, which is with the H. So Etruscan architecture combined a very elaborate design. Their temples typically set high stone podiums with wide steps and porches. Unlike Greek temples, Etruscan ones emphasize frontality as symmetry. We can see here, I put some particular details of Etruscan art, so you can make a little bit of imagining what the Etruscan culture was like. The top right photo is the photo of the most important and famous sculpture, the first one I put in, and it's very famous because it's also very well conserved. So this is the architecture you have to imagine. As you can see, it's not the Greek one, but it has some similarities. As I was saying, unlike Greek temples, Etruscan temples emphasize frontality rather than all-around symmetry, right? And houses were usually built from wood and mud brick, with tiled roof and simple layout focused on family life. Meanwhile, this is the temples, as we were talking. Meanwhile, temples are deeply, you can recognize them for all the materials of the sculptures that are painted terracotta, and afterwards adopted by the Greeks, but they were originally from the Etruscans. So the tombs, however, they were, instead of the houses, they were the tombs monumental and richly adorned, often carved into rock or built underground to resemble homes, with painted walls and funeral goods. Okay, let's start talking about urban planning. So the Etruscans ritualized city founding, influencing Rome's symbolic and physical design. Later on, we will be talking about the symbols and the importance behind the myth of the founding of Rome. I think it depends directly on the beliefs of previous civilization. So the Etruscans used an orthogonal grid, remember this, based on the cardo from north to south and the decumanus from east to west axis. These were the two axes that were later adopted by the Roman colonies. Their cities organized sacred, civic, and residential zones centered around temples or forums. Very good. Now we will be talking about the Roman one. So the Roman Republic began its rise from Rome, founded around 750 BC, and initially it was fighting and then conquering Etruscan lands. As you can see from the map, Rome is like, it's not in the heart of Italy, but it's in the center, and it began conquering all around it. So Greece became a Roman province in 133 BC. Actually, Rome then conquered even Greece. So it served as a gateway to Asia. We will be later see this. In 55 BC, Julius Caesar crossed Britain in the north, expanding Rome's reach. The Roman Empire maintained power until the 4th century after Domini. Good. So now let's be talking about the Roman period. What were the most important cities? So Rome was the empire's political and religious center. In Italian, the correct name is Roma, but we will be calling it Rome. So known for Forum, Colosseum, Pantheon. Meanwhile, Alexandria in Egypt was a major intellectual hub and port. Antioch was the eastern administrative capital, blending Greek, Roman, and Eastern cultures. Constantinople later became the eastern capital and the Byzantine stronghold. Good. So you can see the different phases of Rome, and this is the Roman Republic. We will be talking about now how Rome is founded. But before that, we have to understand where Rome is. So Roman architecture used different local materials across the empire, like sandstones, limestone in the north, then Carrara. Carrara is in the in the Tuscan part, on the left side of the center, and Carrara marble, tough and concrete, with Pozzolana in the center of Italy, then travertine and basalt in the south. This regional variety highlights Roman engineering skills and adaptation to local resources. So let's go to beginning of Rome. Rome began as a small villages near hills and marshes, famously founded by Romulus and Remus, twins raised by a she-wolf. The symbol of Rome, even nowadays, it's the she-wolf with the two kids underneath. Obviously, it's a myth, but it's a very strong one. So, early Romans were Latin, from the Latin ethnic group, farmers, living in the Palatine and Esquiline hills. In Rome, there are 7 different hills with different names, and still nowadays like the government has different buildings, like the parliament and stuff, on different hills, and the name of the parliament and stuff, it still calls like the name of the hill. So the Etruscans developed the city by draining swamps and building roads. In 500 BC, after the tyrannical rule of the last king, Tarquin the Proud, which should be like Tarquinio l'Orgoglioso, Rome became a republic inspired by the noblewoman Lucrezia, giving citizens a voice and paving the way for their expansion to the Mediterranean Sea. Good. We can see here urban planning in Etruria and in Latium. These are the Latin names. The Latium is where Rome is. Now it's like a region and it's called Lazio, which comes from Latium. Then there is Etruria, which was the place where Etruscans were. It's no more called like that, but it's in the Tuscan region, a little bit north from the Latium state. So these features a well-organized cities with orthogonal grid layout based on intersecting Cardo and Decumanus. Cities were divided, as we said before, and most importantly, rituals guided city founding. So linking to urban design to religious and cosmic principles. We can think of other civilizations who did this, and it's a very shared heritage, we can say. So Rome's early urban layout wasn't invented in a vacuum. It was profoundly shaped by the Etruscan planning principles, Latin settlement patterns, and innovation in infrastructures and ritual urbanism. In the map here, we can see all the different hills. The Palatine, the Capitoline, and the Esquiline, the Quirinal, the Viminal, and so on. Good. Let's proceed. Okay, we can see here the original, what remains of the original architecture and urban planning. In the first image, we can see the earliest and most ancient building that actually remains. Then we can see on the right temples. Underneath there is a map which you can clearly see that it's like a grid. The main street are the one that cross the square from north to south and from east to west. So we're talking about the Cardo and the Decumano, which are called maximum, the most important ones. And also another thing that Romans and Etruscans are famous for is the drainage system, as we can see in the bottom right. Okay, now let's see how a city is actually constructed. Good. So, as we can see in the image, we can see that the city is contained within a wall, like the city wall, as we can see here. Then there is other buildings, like the Temple of Jupiter, which is very important as Romans were very religious. Then there is like a place which can be called which can be considered like the agora of the ancient Greece. And then we can see the Cardo, the Decumano, and the amphitheaters and stuff. So let's now talk about the Republic Rome. As I was preparing the class, I was actually losing my mind behind all these years of history. So I tried to condense and make it a little bit easier for you guys to understand it. So the Roman Republic lasted from 509 BC to 27 BC and marks a significant period in ancient history, characterized by a republic form of government, a representative democracy, which was actually very new. This era followed the overthrow of the last Etruscan king, as we said before, and saw the establishment of various assemblies to represent Roman cities. You can see here. On the right, we can see some key terms that you have to associate to this period. I remember you guys that there is the Excel sheet to complete with the key terms and important names and stuff. So you have a complete glossary. It's very important and very useful. So now we're here, right? We talked about the monarch's part. Then we're starting with the republic, and we will be going to 27 BC with the start of the empire. So this is a map of the evolution toward the empire. So Rome's remarkable journey from a collection of villages to the formidable city-state was fueled by urban growth and innovation infrastructure. So initially, the small settlements focused on agriculture, but as the population grew, the need for organized urban planning became essential. So here we can see the need of architecture and urbanism. So the construction of roads, bridges, and aqueducts not only facilitated trade and communication, but also transformed Rome into a vibrant hub of culture and commerce. So civic and religious architecture played a crucial role in expressing Rome's power, community, and identity. Iconic structures like the Colosseum and the Pantheon, which the Pantheon we saw before with Fury, and the Colosseum we will be seeing it soon, were not just functional. They were grand symbols of Roman Empire and cultural achievement. Here, we're starting with the conquer of the Italy peninsula and the transformation from villages to city-states. We can see here the chronological conquering of different places. There is actually a saying in the Roman history that Rome is the center of the globe and all the streets and all the roads takes you to Rome. It's very funny. It's very Rome centric, but that's not actually totally false, because a lot of roads, that we can see and still use in Europe, still are named after the Roman name, still leads to Rome. right? All the roads built under the empire were built to connect Rome to the world. So keep this in mind. The growth of civic institutions in ancient Rome drove urban expansion, with cities evolving from small settlements into complex centers of administration, law, and public life. Architectural advances shifted from stone construction to the innovative use of concrete, allowing for larger, more durable buildings like the Pantheon and the aqueducts. This transition supported Rome's expanding population and civic needs, reflecting the empire's power and engineering mastery. So, as I was saying before, the history of Rome is way too intense. So, I will just name some of the most important kings and rulers. I made other slides, so when you see the presentation, you can go and watch them. I'm gonna skip them, but I will say that Rome, as we said before, began as a small city-state, and then began its conquering and became with Julius Caesar and the later ruler Augustus, an empire, a big empire that had roads in ancient Rome, but had many different citizens, right? You have to imagine an empire so big that they were talking a lot of different languages inside. I think we can see as a contemporary example, maybe not contemporary, but from the 20th century, the Yugoslavia, which was containing all of the Slavic European countries, or even China today, that has many ethnic groups. But as you guys know, I'm talking from a European center point of view, very limited, but I'm talking as they were seeing it. Rome, in that period, was the capital of the globe. It was the center of the world, and it had many citizens, many languages, many cultures. We can see here. Obviously, as you can understand, all of these different people could not be in peace with each other for long. So there were a lot of civic and civil wars under Julius Caesar, that was a key figure in Rome's transition from republic to empire. He was renowned for his military skills and expanded Rome's territory through successful campaigns in Gaul. There is a very interesting and fun comic book about this, and it's called Asterix and Obelix, which is talking about exactly the Romans against the Gaul region. Is the, as you can see in the map, the France is actually France, and there are these Gauls that are fighting against these pagan Gauls that are fighting against this Christian almost, which is not actually historically accurate, but anyway, against this very we can say not as bright Romans. It's very funny, and I recommend you to go watch it. It's a comic book which is called Asterix and Obelix. Now let's start viewing Roman art. this is like a very small collection of different art styles and types. We can see the Arapaches, which is very important. It's made of marble. It's a sculpture, we can say, a monumental tombs. Then we can say the Villa Pompeiana, which is obviously in Pompeii, and you can see the affreschi, which I was talking about. In English they are called frescoes, but I prefer affreschi. Then we can see another affresco which is inside the Villa delle Arance, and then we can see the mosaic from the House of the Faun in Pompeii still. When I was studying the Romans, even when I was younger, always thinking, all these grand people, all of this magnificent civilization. I thought they were so serious. Otherwise, we can see mosaic and refiguration of very funny moments, which I actually think they were like memes from today's, and very funny. We can see even here the ducks in the top and the cat which is eating the Pyrenees. Then the sculpture is a bronze actually of Marco Aurelius, which is another ruler. And ancient Roman mosaics were commonly found in various contexts, like private villas, public baths, or other significant buildings. Roman walls across Europe were essential to determine the borders across Europe and the Mediterranean that reveal actually the evolution, because they were of different ages. Early walls used dry stone and sun-dried bricks, while later on features concrete colors and bricks facing during the empire. These walls reflect changes in Roman society, economy, and available materials. As you can imagine, the more you expand your empire, the more country you get, the more materials you get to have your hands on. So, built often by soldiers or slaves, they were both defensive and monumental walls, showcasing Roman engineering skills, durability, and offering valuable insights into ancient Rome history. So, sorry guys. Okay, here. Roman walls were often used not only as walls, but the same technique made Romans famous, because one of the inventions of Roman history is actually the vaulting system, which revolutionized a lot of buildings, such as the aqueducts, as we can see here. We were talking before about aqueducts, and I can say to you guys that we still use them today. They are almost more efficient than the contemporary ones. There is a saying that once the aqueducts of the Romans will be like falling down, then it's the end of Italy. Okay, we can see here another thing. It's very iconic. We cannot call it building, we cannot call it sculpture. It's more like an architectural design, which is this one, and it's the Colonna Traiana. But you think it's just a column. No, it's not. It's all decorated with scenes, and I actually saw it in real life, and it tells all of the Roman history, obviously mixed with myth and legends, but it tells a lot of stories, and these decorations run all across the column. Amazing. So, Roman urban planning used a grid layout with two main streets, as we said before, the Cardo and the Decumano, crossing the Forum or the city center. Cities as walls, public buildings like baths, temples, and theaters, aqueducts, and sewage system, this the one we saw before, including housing, included apartment blocks called insulae. The design emphasized order, efficiency, and strong infrastructure. We now will be seeing different types of buildings. So the fora were public squares at the heart of Roman cities. The plural is forum, and the Roman Forum in Rome was the most famous building, featuring temples, basilicas, markets, and government buildings. Fora were places for public speeches, legal matters, and gathering, reflecting the civic life of the Romans. The forum, is actually the agora of the Greece. Now, the ancient temples, like the Capitoline Hill, were central to Roman religion and culture. Each town had at least one temple dedicated to gods like Jupiter, Neptune, Venus. The deities in the Roman beliefs are actually the Greek one, but with different names. Like Jupiter is Zeus, Venus is Aphrodite. The temple's main room is called the cella, housed the deities' statues and offerings, but ordinary worshippers rarely could enter it. Ceremonies usually took place outside at the altar. In this slide we can see, as you guys, I think you understood it, it's the Pantheon in Rome. Roman temples typically features a rectangular plan on a high podium with a front portico of columns topped with a triangular pediment. Take a moment to take it in. Roman temples, typically rectangular, were built on a high podium with a front portico of columns topped with a triangular pediment. This one is the column, are the portico. All of those long street with columns on both sides are called portico, even in Italian, and the triangular shape is the pediment. Okay, let's move on. These are the basilicas. The basilica originated in the early Roman Republic, was a large rectangular building used for public purpose like legal, commercial, and civic activities. The earliest example is the Basilica Porta, which is in almost 200 BC, and it's typically located on the Forum alongside key civic buildings. Architecturally, basilicas features a central nave with side aisles and an apse, designed to manage crowds efficiently. So the central nave is the one you can see from the map. It's the center one. Then we're talking of an apse. The apse is the half circular one. The side aisle are the one with all the porticos and the columns left and right of the central nave. Later, as Christianity spread, so after the year 0, the design was adapted for churches, keeping the basic layout and making the basilica a common church style. Thus, basilicas began as a Roman civic building, right, as we said, for legal and civic activities, and then later influenced Christian architecture. This is interesting, the terme. So in Italian we say terme. The terme are actually public baths, and they were public, like public, and they were multifunctional buildings, but the cleaning was the main purpose. They were actually a characteristic piece of Roman lifestyles, and it actually there are a lot here in Italy, and you can still go. Okay, now we will be talking about the Colosseum. So the Colosseum is a massive Roman amphitheater in Rome, built around 70 to 80 after Domini. It could hold up to 50,000 spectators and hosted gladiator fights, animal hunts, and public spectacles. It's an elliptical design, vaulted corridors, and complex underground chambers showcase the Roman mastery of architecture. I actually put another slide so you can go watch more specifically the plan, the map, and stuff. Another things that I have to mention, it's another typology of buildings, we can say, architectural design. It's more correct, and they are the triumphal arches that were built to celebrate military victories and honor important leaders. They typically featured 1 or 3 arches, passageways, decorated with reliefs depicting battles and achievement. Famous examples include the Arch of Titus and the Arch of Constantine in Rome. Good, guys. So for the next class, there is the second assignment, as I wrote in the email, about different topics of the same period that we will be talking about the next time. And this is the Middle Ages. So medieval cathedrals reaching for heaven. And remember that history isn't a stale stone, it's an epic innovation. So see you next week, and be creative and enjoy. Bye bye.